biggest lesson with ayahuasca. For me, what the medicine did was just shatter the illusions that life is just what we see or what we sense with our five senses. And above all, to show me that only when I am deeply connected with the source of life, with God, I'm really effective. God exists not as a realizing that as a direct experience, because that changed everything else in my life. Everything has been made with the same amount of love and attention to detail and care. Suddenly I saw myself as worthy of care, realizing that God created me with a lot of love, and I deserve to treat myself with just as much love. For me, ayahuasca basically is like a truth serum. It showed me all the BS, all the lies, all the areas where I was out of integrity. What's the rush? Your soul has eternity to come back to the place it has never left. So who's rushing? It's your mind, it's your ego, it's your identity. You have to drop that. This is not a race. You need to integrate. I love the work that you're doing. Integration is so essential. Yeah, I'm very glad that you're doing this kind of work, because it is a missing piece for the work of ayahuasca to really create massive change in a person.
I got curious about your story and your path, because I think a lot of people imagine that this plant medicine, this is something like just this magical thing, and it's like you going into the bliss and your pain poof just disappears. And it's really not like that. So yeah, do you want to share about your experience?
It is not like that. It can definitely have glimpses of beauty and bliss and beautiful emotions and whatnot. Sometimes people think that, oh, this is just something that it's a drug that people take to get high and feel good and just forget about their life, and then they become hippies and they just want to do it all the time. And there's this big misconception that this is like a vacation, a psychological vacation, and there's nothing further away from the truth. At least not when done in the right context with the right guides. I have heard of people that they say, oh, ayahuasca is so beautiful all the time and whatnot. And I think, wow, either the brew that you're drinking is not strong enough, you're a saint, which I know for a fact they're not, because there are people that know, or number three, there's just there hasn't been enough depth for you to actually do the work. And we refer to it as the work because it feels like that. It feels like a strain, a mental one. And every culture has in it their own methods, their own rites of passage towards spiritual initiation, which is just a lot of words to say every culture has tools to bring deeper freedom into our human mind and heart. So, we have the Buddhists with their deep meditations, vipassana, all these different things where through the stillness of the mind, the discomfort of sitting for 12 hours in the same position, the yogis also through putting the body in all these different positions, then through this external or physical strain, you subdued the mind, you brought deeper freedom, you were forced to sit and face different things. Then we have, let's say, the Central Northern American tribes that had the red path. There were paths of, let's say, the sweat lodge, the sun dances. They will go into frozen rivers and put their children there until like the children had no option but to either suffer it or like connect to a deeper part of them that was beyond the pain, and that was their initiation. And every culture has had in it their own ways in which they poke at the human consciousness, in which they test the limits of human consciousness. In South America, instead of, let's say, pushing the body to its extremes, they realize that if they mix these two plants, the mind is pushed to its extremes. And in those extremes, you have no choice but to surrender and meet a deeper part of you that can handle it, that is okay with it, that is not consumed by the chaos. So when you ask me what my experience has been like, it's been a lot of that. It's been a lot of dancing with chaos, being consumed by it, telling myself dozens of times, why did I drink this? This is the last time I'm doing it. This was the worst idea of my life. And then once I'm out of it, thinking, wow, that was torture. That was horrible. I do not wish to go through that ever again. And I'm so happy I did, because what the part of me that suffered was my ego, my rigidity, my desire to be in control, my fear of letting go, my the ways in which I still want to be an individual and not connect with life. And I still want for my desires and compulsions and my identity to be the big thing. And I don't allow for life to actually flow and for me to accept it. So I'd say that ayahuasca is a beautiful, beautiful experience. But in my case, the most beautiful part of ayahuasca has been outside of it. It's been through integration, really, really embodying what came up during ceremony. Because the ceremonies have a beautiful component to them. Sooner or later, they're even if they're horrible at the beginning, you have a happy ending. It's you come out of it anyways. But a psychedelic high is of no use. We can get drunk with beer over a weekend, have a great time, and forget about it next month. But what happens on the other side of that? What opens up, and more than that, what we lose, parts of ourselves that we lose. I think that's really where the magic is at. And as you said, it's not just this fun, blissful journey. I think it's the dance of life and death. It's playing with fire, and if we do it in the wrong context or with the wrong people or in a space that has not been taken care of properly, we could hurt ourselves. On the other hand, the sheer amount of voltage, it can light up a whole city. It can just burn us, electrocute us right away. So the problem is not the voltage, it's how we relate to it. So my relationship with the medicine is one of a lot of respect, appreciation, and nervousness as well. Every time I get up to drink a cup, my heart is beating, and I know that if I'm going to do work, which is the intention, it's going to be uncomfortable. And that's okay.
So beautifully said, like you really speaking from my heart. And I often tell people that if you haven't been yet in your dark night of the soul a couple of times, then you really didn't go deep, enough to, in your experience, in your journey. And if you are not sure if you ever had a dark night of the soul, then you didn't have it yet. Because if you would have it, you would know that you were. And I feel that really the Mother Ayahuasca, that she is really the master of this, like bringing through this death and rebirth, this transformational process. And oftentimes, I feel that in the ceremony container, and the first part is that depth and that density and that darkness, that you have to wade through and purify yourself first before we can step into that other part of that rebirth and that more authentic expression of ourselves. But I do agree with what you're saying, that the major part of the process is outside of the ceremony container. And definitely for me, like the biggest breakthroughs happened, in those in between, in those deep integrations, when I went through, the embodiment and then how to put this into practice. And that's what is the real gift, the real change of the medicine. And I so resonate with you, what you said about, the medicine helping us to break down this resistance that we have of going into these places, of touching, this pain. And that's natural, that's natural that we have that. I think that you don't want to go there. But also, as you go through this process over and over, you learn that on the other side, it's that liberation, and that freedom is like squeezing you out almost into a wider space. So you surrender, that resistance in the end, like. And definitely she helps us with that. What is, a couple of things that you really deeply learned, from your own experience, and it became kind of guidepost for your life, and for your teachings?
I would say the main one was just to connect to something greater. I was kind of an atheist. I didn't really think about it much, but I thought this is all that exists, just whatever is physical, and then Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and that's it. I was pragmatic. The problem was that everybody that I had ever met who spoke of energies, of spirituality, of God, was full of shit, or a hippie. So I felt it was someone that was probably masking their lack of competence in spirituality. It's like, oh, I don't care about money, I just care about God. It's like, well, you could say that if you had the skills to create money, but if you don't, how do you know you don't care about it? I used to work in dating and relationship coaching for some time, and there were a lot of guys who will like judge beautiful women. They will say like, I don't want to date women. Women are gold diggers. All attractive girls, they just want men with money. I will never date one of those women. And they will use a lot of swear words to refer to these women. And I will think, actually, I'm pretty sure that if any of those women gave you a chance, you will run to take it. but it's so much easier to judge and demonize something that you are in some level unable to claim to create or you don't feel worthy of. Easier to say, oh, I'm above these superficial women than to acknowledge my own grief around, wow, like I don't feel like an attractive man, or I don't feel I have much of value to offer to the kind of women that I find beautiful, right? It's so much easier to demonize because then I can justify why I don't have it and pretend that I don't want it. So my experience with spirituality has been a lot of that. My mother was super religious. She was Christian fanatic at some point, and I will see her going to church and come out of church and be an ogre at home with my father, with my sister, with myself. And I'm thinking, what's the point? That moment where you share peace with each other and you give each other a hug and a kiss on the cheek, and she's like, oh, may the peace be with you. And inside I'm thinking, like, this is hypocritical. She was just yelling at us. What do you mean peace? So when you ask me about the biggest lesson with ayahuasca, before sitting with plant medicine, I thought that spirituality was for hippies, disempowered people, people who just couldn't do better. So I cannot create the life that I want. So I'm going to create a philosophy around me being okay with the one that I have. And I thought, no big deal with that. But don't talk to me about God. Don't come out with all these fanciful ideas. And for me, what the medicine did was just shatter the illusions that life is just what we see or what we sense with our five senses. And above all, to show me that only when I am deeply connected with the source of life, with God, I'm really effective. Like it showed me that there's no either or. It's all just one. You don't have to choose either or. Is not about, it's not like the physical life and the spiritual life. It's just life. All of it is life. That's it. So for me that was the main thing. Like I used to live a very superficial life. So the main lesson was there's way more to life than what you think. There's way more than making money, having a girlfriend, being liked by your friends, which at the time I thought that's all it comes down to. It's like you're a man, you throw a party, you get drunk, you have girls, you make good money, and people like you, and then that's it. You're top of the food chain. And it's like I realized, whoa, actually no, I haven't even started my journey. There's so much more to life. This alone was the biggest shift because I went from thinking, is this it? Is this all there is to life? To going towards like there's so much what like there's I don't even know where this whole thing ends, from thinking that life is so limited to realizing that ooh, I am the one who's limited and life is so infinite and mysterious and like a beautiful mystery to discover. So that was my, I would say, like the main lesson, that God exists not the God from the Bible, one creative force at the source of creation, whatever name was given to it, realizing that as a direct experience, because that changed everything else in my life. Because suddenly, if God exists not as a thought but as a direct experience, then the priorities shift very quickly, because then money is not the highest, is really low on the scale of importance. Suddenly learning to come closer to that force, to a creator, learning to listen to it, learning to serve it, becomes the only thing worth doing with our time. So I would say like that was the major shift. I'd say the second thing was realizing that I am a creation, like I'm a son of the creator. If I exist, because my existence is just as necessary and meaningful and beautiful, like the blooming of an orchid, the setting of a sunset, the explosion of a star, just everything has been made with the same amount of love and attention to detail and care. And I realized there's this thing that loves me so much that it's made me the way that I am, and I don't treat myself with the same amount of love. Especially back then, it's like, oh, I eat junk food. I put myself in horrible situations with my romantic partners, with my friends. I take substances. I just realized that I treated myself without love in so many ways. So the second biggest thing was feeling that this life is such a gift, and feeling that I really want to take good care of it, because through taking care of this, I serve the creator as well. So that for me also, it translated into a change of diet, change of lifestyle. All the addictions that I had, they pretty much fell off, because suddenly I saw myself as worthy of care. If I'm an extension of that, of God, of such beauty, such bliss, like maybe my life is worth caring for. So a lot of the self-abandonment and self-judgment and self-destructive habits that I had, they no longer fit, because you can only continue those if at some level you hate yourself or you don't value the life that you are, smoking, drinking, taking drugs. But on the other hand, if you really value the life that you are, if we saw ourselves with the same light that we see a puppy or a little baby, like, oh, like I just want to take care of this with the same devotion and intensity, things would change. So for me, that was, I would say that that was the second one. Like first one, understanding there is a God, not as an idea, a direct experience. Number second, realizing that that God created me with a lot of love, and I deserve to treat myself with just as much love. And I will say the third one was that, like for me, ayahuasca basically is like a truth serum. It showed me the all the BS, all the lies, all the areas where I was out of integrity. It just showed me how fragmented I was and all the ways in which I lied to myself, to my partner, to my clients, to my friends, all the ways in which I was pretending to be someone that I was not. That was the painful part because it's cause my identity was built around that, around being liked, which meant manipulating people's perception of me, which meant sometimes hiding the truth so that people wouldn't dislike me, or saying the right thing that I thought people wanted to hear from me or that my parents wanted to hear, and basically not being authentic. And for me, ayahuasca has been like to this day, I can probably count with one hand, maybe with less than one hand, how many times I have lied in the last couple of years or done like what I consider white lies or very small things. And every single time that I've said, and these things that are inconsequential, like my wife will ask me, hey, why are you doing this? And I'm like, maybe I feel shame. I'm like, no. And she's like, "Ah, whatever," and it has no impact on anything. Even small things to this day, like I get sick, I start getting sick, like I feel like I want to throw up. I just, everything within me just starts feeling, I literally start feeling like I'm about to purge. And I just, my whole body reacts to it in such a strong way that when I pay attention, like, why do I feel so sick? And I realize, ooh, I lied, no matter how small. And then I have to come back and clean it up. Before ayahuasca, I'm like, you know what? Reality is malleable and flexible to my whims and desires, and my words shift based on how I'm feeling. Versus afterwards, it basically taught me what integrity is. If you're honest with yourself and with the world, and you grab your fragmentation and condense it, you bring yourself to a unity, you can be very powerful, you can be very effective, but above all, you're going to be very at peace because you're not pulling in a million directions, and also your life is all in one. Everything is walking towards the same place and not all these parts trying to do their own thing. So I'd say those three things radically changed my life and keep changing it, because now I tell my wife, like, I can't lie to you. When I try it, my whole face turns weird. I started coughing, and it's like, oh, I can't get away with those things anymore, which is a blessing and a curse. Well, not a curse, really. It is a blessing. It's just, but it's a blessing that comes with responsibilities. Like a friend will ask me, "Hey, man, did you like this thing that I sent you? Or what do you think about this?" And now sometimes I have to say, "Hey, like, do you want me to tell you the truth?" And people don't like it very often. This is not a world designed for people to hear the truth. Most people want comfort and solace and a nice hug over a difficult truth. So for me, ayahuasca is that, is a lot of uncomfortable truths that we sip little by little, and then we have to accept and embrace, and that ultimately free us. But before they free us, they burn us a little bit.
Absolutely, that is so true. I had very similar experience. I was, very interested on a deeper level what healing is, because I was a therapist before, started out as a psychologist, then going into holistic therapy, because I always felt that that framework is just too small to fit, the human being in. And when I came to the red road and shamanic practices, that's when I really realized, and it clicked for me that, yeah, we are way more than the mind, the emotions, the body, the identity, all of these things that, and I was trying to solve my challenges on those levels, and I was not succeeding. I kept repeating the same mistakes. I kept being trapped, in the same scenarios after so much therapy and talking about it and healing work and crystals on my third eye and I don't know what. That was kind of my experience as well, that with the medicine helped me to restore this connection with something greater, something the divine, wholeness. And from that place, I could really start to hear certain things, that I couldn't even see or touch because it was just too much. And I was able, to, from that place, to begin a deep healing and a transformational process that I believe that I would have never been able to do unless I got some help with this, and oftentimes, in my program, when people come to me who struggle for a long, long time and tried a lot of things, and is their last resort, plant medicine. Find that this is, the true power and the true gift is to recover our connection and to remember who we are, that we are more, than what is visible, and to remember that divinity, that sacredness, and that power. Then you don't have to make yourself with willpower to adhere to certain rules, because you will feel, as you said, that you don't want to put a hamburger into your body anymore, that just doesn't feel good to you, and we get deeply transformed and changed. And I think that that's one of the reasons, why a lot of people keep suffering, is because you need to have that higher power to address certain issues, because you just cannot deal, on the little human level. It's just too much, to deal. And certain things, I think what happened is happened. You can't make it go away, but for me, like, I became aware that I'm more than what happened to me, and what pained me and what hurt me. And from that place, I could see things in a very different way. And that was for me the true beginning of healing. And you always say, that psychedelics and plant medicine expand awareness. And I think that's very true, but that awareness is the awareness of who you really are and what you're really capable of. It is a beautiful and messy process, and
Yeah.
of gifts, and a lot of obstacles, and challenges. Yeah, just becoming more and more humble, I think, and more open to
Hmm.
receive. Like, I often have these moments, when I think I really figured out something, and then there is the awareness that you only know this little, that's what you figured out now, and the mystery is like infinite. So,
Hmm.
remember that. I think maybe that's why, these plants become so popular now, because there is so much pain and suffering, and people are searching and people are looking. And I think you naturally want to know, want to integrate, want to remember. That's where the energies are flowing towards equilibrium and balance. But there is so much resistance, and that's for me another gift of the medicine, is to help to surrender this resistance, and not just stop, standing in our own ways. What do you think, this about this, like, psychedelic renaissance that is going on, and this newfound enthusiasm towards the plants in general, and
Hmm.
specifically the ayahuasca, that is one of the most, popular plant medicine?
Yeah. So I'm not sure that the enthusiasm is necessarily towards the plants. I just think that, as you mentioned it, the tendency is more towards large scale suffering. And as such, people in pain are very resourceful. A person in pain will try to figure it out, whatever it takes, will go through chemo, take a pills, fast, because it's so present, you cannot ignore it. So on one hand, because these medicines have been around for thousands of years, but the reason they've become popular more recently is, of course, technology has made it widely available, research, education, let's say anecdotal stories of thousands, if not millions of people turning their lives around. I do feel that the inclination towards the plant medicines is actually coming because the world is getting sicker. There's, I think right now it's like 1 in 3 persons, at least in the States, has a mental health disorder. And the number is meant to be like 1 in 2 within the next not too many years. There's so many layers to it, but the degradation of the soil, of the food, of the human body, our generation is creating weaker human beings. I think this is in some ways a good thing because nature, at the end of the day, we're all an extension of nature. This body was borrowed. It's borrowed soil that we give back when we die. And nature, as our mother, wants all of her children to be happy and healthy. So she has food which should be and we could be using as medicine, but most people don't. And she has medicines, herbs and vines and plants and sacred medicines that are really, really like a potent, a very direct way of a force of nature saying like, hey, like let me help you, let me heal you, let me bring you back into wholeness. The first elder that I sat in ceremony with, he already passed away, but he was heavily judged by his community, by the other shamans and indigenous people in the Amazon, because they were trying to keep the medicine private, because they saw that when the white man came, when we were colonized, they took the sacred tobacco plant and they turned it into cigarettes and cancer. They took, let's say, the marijuana, the Santa Maria plant, and they turned it into blunts and joints and just a way to destroy their brain. They took coca leaf, which was used for offerings, for connecting with nature, for deepening presence. They mixed it with a lot of chemicals and they turned it into cocaine. So they even turned the corn crops, modified them genetically, and then created things that create a lot of IBS, gut inflammation, just horrible things for the body. When corn used to be medicine across the Andes and Central America and whatnot. So they were afraid that they're going to take ayahuasca as well and turn it into something that is destructive, or they're going to find a way to mess it up. And so they used to judge him very heavily because of this. And he had many enemies. There were many shamans that wanted to kill him because they thought he was one of the first ones in Colombia, I think over 50 years ago, that he took the medicine out of the jungle and started serving it in the cities. And he said, anyone, doesn't matter where, I don't need to be in a sacred temple. If you have a cottage and you have a family or three friends that want to hang out, I'm gonna be there. If you're sick, I'm out to heal. And when they asked him why he was doing that, he said that for him the medicine came to him and told him the cities are consuming the jungles and the forests. They're expanding every time more, and people's anxiety to consume, to use nature, to destroy her, it's growing and growing and growing. He said, all right, you guys are gonna keep these sacred medicines hidden over here, but maybe not your generation, but one or two generations later, there's not going to be any medicine, not for you, not for anybody, because the city will have consumed all the nature. So Plant told him like, if like you need to go out and help the cities heal, because if you don't do that, there's not going to be anything to protect. What's the point of keeping this here private and sacred if we're going to lose it? Better bring it out and allow for people in the cities to reconnect to nature, to understand what they're doing, and hopefully change their ways, and hopefully impact enough people so that the tide starts shifting towards a different way of living in more harmony with nature, right? I do believe that it's a good thing overall that the medicines are more accessible. If nature did not want for that to be available, it will not be available. Like we often think that, oh, it's a mistake that it became so popular, as if us tiny little humans could control what nature actually wants. Like if nature wants something to happen or not, when nature wants to burn a whole city in fire or drown it in a tsunami or open up the tectonic plaques and just swallow entire towns, it does it. And that's it. We don't have a say. So I also feel that nature wants for the medicines to reach more people. And like with everything, there is bound to be abuse. And there's a lot of people that are not very trained, that they don't understand how to help people go through deep processes, how to help people integrate. And here is where a very sharp knife can make you a delicious meal and make you a great chef, or you could cut your fingers very easily and harm yourself or other people. And there's a necessity for education. Some of the shamans that I worked with in Colombia, they used to be very judgmental of especially foreigners hosting plant medicine experiences, or facilitators that trained for 3 months in Peru and suddenly they became shamans. And they would judge that because they've dedicated their whole lives. It's been decades and decades and decades of apprenticeship, of initiations, of drinking 1 liter of ayahuasca before they receive their crown of feathers. That will be 4 of these full, just in one go. They're high for like 3 days. Some people will die and never come back. The ones that manage to come back, they will be allowed to serve medicine afterwards. So there were these rites of passage to become a crowned shaman, to be given permission by nature and your elder to serve the medicine. And then on the other hand, you have somebody that paid $5,000 for a 3 month online shamanic teaching course, and I don't know, from like some online channel from eBay, and then serves it to his friends downtown New York. So we have this deep contrast. And what I found is that if I feel that I know a better way, or if I feel that I know a way that cares with more integrity, more safety and depth for those involved, education, not judgment, is what that person needs. Because I used to like look down and write posts like attacking that whole thing, and then I realized, if I think I know better, let me teach them. Let me share what my elder have shared with me. Let me like invite them to do things with more integrity. Let me invite those people to come and meet my elder and maybe connect into a tradition where they may develop a different relationship to the medicines they serve, instead of just sitting here and in my high horse and thinking that, oh, things are being done the wrong way and all these fake shamans. That's my own ego. That's my work to do. I'm glad that it's very popular. It's also being vastly misused. And I think for people misusing them, I see my job, if I run into them, as including them, inviting them towards education, because I do believe that we all want to do things out of good intentions. But good intentions are not enough when you're handling a sharp knife. You need skill, you need training.
Thank you. Yes, I really resonate with that. And for our audience, download my free ebook about plant medicine safety, where I put really everything I learned, and I wish I would have known before I started. And I went to my first ceremony, and my goal is the same, to educate and to give you some pointers and how to ask the right questions, how to choose the right place, how to choose the right time, set the right intentions, so you can really make, the most out of this experience, because this is such a powerful tool and ally for us, that is here for us, as you said, it's a gift from the earth, to help us. But we have responsibility, right? That comes with it when we are using powerful tools. And one of like kind of the controversial questions, I think, around ayahuasca is like how much medicine you need. And people are so divided. Some people like just drink more medicine and just go to a lot of ceremonies. I've been to 50 ceremonies. That's nothing. I've been to 80 ceremonies. And it's like some kind of competition, and there's people on the other side, and I more belong to that, to say that dedicate yourself to the whole journey, and the ceremony is just part of the process. And the more healed you are, the less medicine you need, kind of. And I think that one thing I learned from the medicine is to empower us to the extent when we don't need to rely on external tools, to be able to overcome, obstacles, and just to navigate our lives. And of course, there are exemptions if you're in training, to serve medicine, to serve in the ceremony space, to be, a support for others. But I think, that it's important that we do, the whole journey with the preparation and the integration, and before we, think about, okay, maybe it's time for another ceremony. What is your thoughts on that?
I agree with you. I recently wrote a post about it, and the post, in essence, was about let us not spend our whole life in the toilet. What that meant is, we go to the toilet to release what our body doesn't need, let's say the garbage, the leftovers. But our life is not in the toilet. Our life is what happens outside of it. In the same way, self-development, ayahuasca, whatever it is that we're using, important to understand that this medicine is a powerful tool, a powerful bridge towards healing, towards a better life, towards more inner freedom, towards finding God and ourselves, karmic purification, so many things. But at the end of the day, our life is not that high. Our life is our day to day. Is me washing the dishes, is me having a difficult conversation with my wife, is the way I show up at work with my clients, with my coworkers, the way I react to my parents when they say something that I dislike, the way that I react to my own triggers, to the areas where that I carry shame or self-judgment. So for me, when I started drinking ayahuasca, my life changed so much that I thought the more that I drink, the more it's gonna change, and it just keeps getting better and better and better. So just give me 5 cups, and until I can't handle it anymore, just I was going at it like that, like just more is better. But the more is better is the approach that has us sick in the West. More money, more cars, bigger, faster, better. That whole approach is that is the sickness. And very often we bring our patterns, our sick patterns, into our spiritual journey. Give me more medicine. Like I want to grow more. It's not about that. Like it's not about more. It's about here. It's about being in this moment. It's about full acceptance. Not about being perfect or trying to become this big human being. It's about like recognizing our smallness and the beauty that lies in that and the perfection and the miracle that it is. To me, I had a couple of experiences. The first one was one time that I was in a very rough place with the medicine, and the medicine told me, "What are you doing? Like, what's the rush? Like, look where you put yourself. Like, your body can barely handle this. If you keep pushing, you're gonna break your body and your mind. What's the rush? Your soul has eternity to come back to the place it has never left. So who's rushing? It's your mind, it's your ego, it's your identity." Because the soul, for the soul, there's no enlightenment. That's where your soul resides. There's no journey to make anywhere because that's it. You're one with God. It's in your mind that you feel you're distant and in your body. So who is driving who's at the wheel right now? And I realized it was like my own unworthiness, my own shame, my own desire to I don't like what I see, so I need to change it. I need to be someone different. And I need for it to be faster and faster because I want to be better. I want to be a good person, a spiritual man. I want to get enlightened. You have to drop that. This is not a race. And about a year ago, year and a half, I had a ceremony where the medicine told me, hey, like you keep coming back, but what about this and that? And some homework she had given me. And it's like, well, I said, if you come back next time, I'm going to tell you the exact same thing that I told you right now. Take a year's break. You need to integrate. What's the point? Is like you're becoming this tree with all this spiritual insight and no roots. You're gonna fall. You're gonna damage yourself. You need to embody, you need to integrate. Spiritual insight without integration becomes a self-aggrandized ego. Spiritual delusion comes when we have access to a lot of, let's say, wisdom and knowledge, but we have not grounded it. Therefore, we walk around thinking, oh, I'm Jesus, I'm the prophet, I'm great, I'm this goddess, this king, this Mr. Wizard, magical being, healer. Nothing wrong with that. I think we all have the capacity to be agents of healing, of change, of transformation, of inspiration. But there's some people that get so caught up in the astral fantasies of whom they saw themselves as, and they don't understand that, all right, this is a possibility, but to actualize it means, I have to look at my life. I need to show up in a very specific way. I always tell people, like, you only go to a teacher if you're willing to do the homework. And if your teacher gives you homework, you don't come back until you've done it, or until you're in a lot of pain or very stuck around that homework that you need a little bit extra help. That's how I see ayahuasca. Outside of the context of apprenticeship, where it is required of you to drink more medicine, to learn about how to hold space, that's a different path that is not for everybody. And for people that are just growing with it, integration is the number one thing, because otherwise, I know people, I have friends that they go a couple of times to Colombia, to the jungles, they sit with well-known elder, and they have these beautiful, glorious insights about life and spirituality and whatnot. And they come back and they have a lot of credit card debt. They don't have a stable job. They don't have their own home. They're living in their partner's place, and nothing wrong with that. But I feel that spiritual journey that happens at the expense or at the abandonment of our physical life is half the journey. Like you can't bear fruits if you don't take care of your roots, ultimately. How to ascend somewhere if you haven't grounded yourself, that's just a recipe for mental health complications, going a little crazy, or just living a very messy life and calling it spiritual. I think sometimes the most spiritual thing we can do is pay our taxes, organize those numbers, clean up our place, mop the kitchen. It's not a fantasy fairy tale like the colors and visions that a psychedelic journey may give us. So easy to dismiss, because in this altered state, I feel like I'm God. And when I'm back into my challenging financial situation, now I'm faced with my humanity. So I want to run away from that instead of like understanding that that is my medicine. That's my real medicine, because that's my life. That's really where life is mirroring to me the ways in which I am not in alignment with nature's abundance, way in which I'm not receiving, which is usually a symptom of not giving enough, not creating enough value for others. And of course, if you ask a shaman if you should drink more medicine, I mean, they're biased. I have yet to meet a shaman that says, no, you've had enough. It's like, to those who have a hammer on their hand, every problem looks like a nail. Hey, I have a problem with this, drink more medicine. Hey, I'm thinking about this, drink more medicine. Hey, I want to do this, drink more medicine. Hey, I want to stop drinking medicine, drink more medicine.
So true, but I think it's the main reason, because I was thinking about that so much. Why, the Shipibos didn't teach me about the integration, and I realized that, they don't need the integration because their integration is living in the context, in the mindset, with the traditions, with the completely different worldview that we have
Mm-hmm.
when and everything. So for them, maybe it's okay to work with the medicine like that, but we're taking the medicine out of that context and placing it in a context where it's like alien, and very hard
Mm-hmm.
to relate to and connect to. So I think definitely the integration is more emphasized, from people from the West, who feel called to work with this medicine. And thank you so much for sharing. I'm so grateful for this conversation. I think there is not enough time, when we can emphasize these things to help people to gain deeper insight, and to really understand how to work with this medicine, and the medicine is
Mm-hmm.
not the job for you, but you can learn to work with this very powerful and magical plant. So if you want to share anything about your offerings, your programs, then here is the space for that.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I love the work that you're doing. Integration is so essential. And as you said it, indigenous communities, that's also my experience. They don't care about integration because traditionally they didn't need it because you drink medicine next to your father and your boss and the person that offended you and the one that raped you and whatever. And you come out of it the other side like as a community in a context of mutual understanding, and you all go through the healing journey. So your life is the integration, and also you live in close communion with nature, so you're kind of grounded, and nature takes care of so many things. And for them it's sometimes hard to understand what living in the city feels like. It's a very distant reality. Like for us it would be hard to understand what just waking up in the jungle is like. Yeah, I'm very glad that you're doing this kind of work because it is a missing piece for the work of ayahuasca to really create massive change in a person. I do believe just experiences enough can change a person's life, but if they do it with the proper integration support, then that change can be sustained. And the plane, you can have the best vacation, but if when you're coming back, the plane crashes, it was the worst vacation. No matter how much fun you had, no matter the beautiful memories you created, if you don't land safely, it's the worst thing. This is with ayahuasca. If you don't integrate, if you don't land that safely, no matter how great what you lived in the retreat center was, it can amount to a very horrible experience. So thank you. Yeah, for us, we run retreats right now twice a year in Colombia, 9-day immersions with an indigenous elder. Our website is ayahuascacolombia.com or on Instagram at ayahuasca.colombia. Same YouTube channel, same name, Ayahuasca Colombia. I have I think close to 200 educational videos on all things, how to prepare, how to set an intention, what to do if things go wrong, horror stories from people I've met, all kinds of different things that allow for someone to understand a little bit more what this work is about, and what they can expect and how to prepare in a better way. And that's it. And then my personal account is at Nico Canon _, and that's more outside of ayahuasca. But ayahuasca is at the source of my transformation, my family's healing. I witnessed so many miracles that every time that I have the chance to support anyone into taking a calculated risk, like do it with people you trust or hire someone like you to make sure that you can land properly, I think everybody that is ready should do it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Nico. And